You might not know guys, you may have no idea, but just reading a single newspaper can help you a lot to achieve your goal of becoming a fluent English speaker in a very short period of time. Hey guys, if you really want and if you really admire to speak the English language fast, fluent and clear, then I highly recommend all of you guys to stay tuned, because I promise that this is gonna be a good one. Hey, what's up guys, and most welcome to the englsih.com, which stands for the University of Learning English, and which is an online English academy help all of those lovely people just like you who are struggling day and night and all the time to build their confidence somehow, speak fluent and take their English to the next level. And today in this lesson, our targeted topic is how to achieve your goal of becoming a fluent speaker, like how to speak the English language fast, fluent and clear, just like a native speaker within 3 months by just reading a single newspaper like this. And the reason I'm bringing up this topic, the reason I feel like to discuss and talk about this topic, how to achieve your goal of becoming a fluent English speaker by just reading a single newspaper, is just because reading newspaper completely changed my English language, completely changed my life. Reading a single newspaper brought enormous changes and brought enormous revolution in my English language. Like it improved my vocabulary, boost my vocabulary, update my vocabulary, and even more, reading newspaper improved my listening comprehension and my speaking proficiency as well. And now as a consequence, as a result, I'm able to speak the English language fast, fluent and clear without any kind of hesitation, without any kind of translation, and even more, I'm able to speak the English language confidently in front of everyone. Like, I'm not bragging about my English language. There is nothing to brag about, but believe me, I just want to share the secret, and I just want to give the tips that work for me, the tips that help me to achieve my goal of becoming a fluent English speaker in no time, at the most in 3 months. And I do believe guys, and also I promise that if you apply the tips and if you work on those tips on a consistent basis, so I promise again that you will be able to achieve your goal of becoming a fluent English speaker, and you will be able to speak the English language fluent as you want within just 3 months. So now let's get to chess and get down to work. Alright guys, here we go. Well, there are so many ways that can help you to become a very fluent English speaker in a very short period of time. And we have already discussed those ways. We have already talked about those topics on our channel. You can find those videos on this channel. But improving your English language through reading newspaper is one of the most effective and one of the most important way to take your English to the next level. Like if you really want to boost your vocabulary and update your vocabulary, then you should read newspaper. If you want to improve your general knowledge, your GK, and feel more confident, then you should read newspaper. And even more guys, if you want to attract and inspire your listener through your words, through your speaking style, then why don't you read a single newspaper? And in addition guys, if you really want to make your sound as natural as native English speaker rather than a boring robotic sound, then you should read newspaper, because newspaper is always full of the new and sophisticated words that can really help you to speak the English language as natural as native English speaker rather than a boring robotic sound. Believe it or not guys, but newspaper always play a pivotal role in achieving your goal of becoming a fluent English speaker. If you are indeed an English learner, so then you cannot ignore reading newspaper. So guys, if you are ready and if you want to achieve your goal of becoming a fluent English speaker and take your English to the next level by just reading a single and a cheaper newspaper, then let's do it. Alright guys, and now finally, here we go. Our first ever tip is consistency. And consistency is one of the most important, essential thing and part of this lesson. As I always say, as I always emphasize, that consistency is not only important in learning a language, whether you are learning Arabic, Chinese, English or whatever. Yes, Of course, it is important in learning a language, but not only learning a language. Consistency has the key rule in each and everything, that you are doing, and in each and every aspect of life. I mean, if you don't like consistency and if you are not consistent, then do not even think about success, because success without consistency is impossible, and you won't be able to reach your destination and achieve your goal, whatever it may be. Without consistency, everything is impossible. But if you are consistent and if you like consistency, then I promise, I give you my word that sooner or later you will achieve your goal, whatever it may be, and you will reach your destination sooner or later. At the end of the day, you have to be consistent. You have to read a newspaper consistently in order to achieve your goal of becoming a fluent speaker. I mean, you should spend at least 20 minutes every single day with reading newspaper. Like, if you can spend more than 20 minutes, it's fine, it's even great. But I would highly recommend you to start doing it by small, and every single day you have to spend 20 minutes with reading newspaper on a consistent basis, on a regular basis, in order to train your muscle, in order to train your brain and become fluent within 3 months. So here I repeat, guys, consistency. The tip number 1 is one of the most important and one of the most simple thing. You have to be consistent. You have to read newspaper on a consistent basis, whether you feel like or not, whether it's rain, hail, shine, or whatever. But you have to read a newspaper on a consistent basis every single day. And do not make excuse. Do not say, it's Friday, I'm not going to read newspaper. Oh, it's Sunday, I'm not going to read newspaper. It's my friend's birthday, I'm not going to read newspaper, etc., etc. Do not make excuse, right? You can only change your English language. You can only achieve your goal of becoming a very fluent English speaker by consistency, with the help of consistency. There is no any other way that can help you to become fluent without consistency. So tip number 1 is be consistent. And now look at the tip number 2. The tip number 2 is also our last tip to achieve your goal of becoming a fluent English speaker through reading newspaper. Is you have to read a newspaper, then understand what you read, and then speak what you read. I mean, you should talk about what you read. Like, what I mean by read, understand, and speak is you have to read a newspaper on a consistent basis every single day, and then try to understand what you read in your native language. Like, once you read a news, then you have to understand that news in your native language. And then on a third time, in the third step, you have to speak and talk about that news in your own words. Like, for example, first of all, you should find a newspaper, an English newspaper. English newspaper doesn't cost too much. It's quite cheaper and you can find it everywhere. So open up the newspaper and first of all, try to find as short news as you can. Like, the newspaper is always full of the good news, the bad news, the sport news, politician, etc., etc. So first of all, you have to find a short news like this, right? But if you cannot find the short news, or maybe if there is no more short news remaining, then you have to convert the long news into short news. Like, you just have to read the half news, or 5 or 6 line would be also good enough, because you are just getting started. So I would highly recommend you not to overburden yourself and start doing it by small. At the beginning, a 5 or 6 line would be also good enough, but at the passage of time, you should try to increase your learning average. So now once you find a news, then try to read that news and underline the words that you don't know, the words that you can't understand. And then next, you have to find the meaning of those words in your dictionary, right? Then try to read the same news again and make sure that you understand that news in your native language. Like, once you read a news, so make sure you understand what is happening in that news. So now you have read the newspaper. Also, you have understood that in your native language, like that what is happening in that news and what you read. And the third step and in the third tip, you have to talk about that news in your own words. I'm not saying that you should talk about that news in your native language. No, you have to talk about that news in English language, but in your own words. And what I mean by in your own words is just try to talk and speak about that news in your own words, whether you are right, wrong, whether you are using the right grammar, the tenses or not, but you have to keep going. You have to keep speaking, you have to keep talking. You just have to train your muscle, you just have to train your mind and give a signal to your mind that you really want to become a fluent speaker. So don't worry about that. First of all, you have to stand in front of the mirror. You can also stand in front of your sibling. You can also stand in front of your friend. Yeah, they will make fun of you, but you are learning the English language for yourself, not for them. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about your mistakes. You can also walk in your lawn and talk about that news in your own words. You can ask questions from yourself and try to repeat that news over and over again. I'm saying again that don't worry about your mistakes. Make mistake. And if you forget a word, you can actually look it up in your dictionary or maybe in that newspaper, but do not repeat the exact word that you read in a newspaper. Also keep in mind and remember that for the very first time, this practice is going to be a little bit difficult and hard. And you might not feel like to do this practice because it will be a bit hard. But I promise that after some time, after 2 to 3 weeks, you will get the better of it, and after that you will start feeling like to do this practice. And I do believe, guys, if you are consistent, persistent, and if you have patience as well, then I promise again that you will achieve your goal of becoming a very fluent speaker within 3 months. 3 months is not that very long time. And everything great in life, everything worthwhile in life, take time, take struggle, take work. So read a newspaper on a consistent basis, then understand what you read, and then you have to talk about that in your own words. Don't worry about your mistake. I make mistake, our teacher make mistake, everyone make mistake. But just don't be complacent about your mistake. Once you make a mistake, then try to find a way and then try to fix that mistake. And if you try to fix your mistake, then mistake is not a mistake. Then make 1,000 mistakes per day. But also try your best to learn from your mistakes. Because in your entire life, you can learn from 2 things. From your teacher and from your mistake. Make mistakes are fine, but don't be complacent about your mistakes. And here I'd like to repeat. The tip number 1 was consistency. Consistency is the key to success. If you really want to get ahead and if you really want success, if you want to live a successful life, then you gotta be consistent. And the tip number 2, to achieve your goal of becoming a fluent speaker by reading newspaper, was read a newspaper, understand what you read, and then talk about that in your own words. Understand the news in your native language, but do not talk about that news in your native language. You have to talk about that news in your own words, whether you are right or wrong. I'm saying again, but you have to train your muscle, you have to train your brain, and at the pace of time, you will be able to become fluent. And now finally, guys, here we go. Now it is time and turn to know and learn that how you can attract and inspire your listener effortlessly by just reading a single newspaper. I know this very well. I have experienced this. Almost every single person, every single English learner is trying all the time and struggling to learn something new and different in English language, just and only to attract and inspire their listener and other people through their words, through their speaking style. You might not know, guys, you may have no idea, but you can easily do so by just reading a newspaper. I mean, you can easily and effortlessly attract and inspire your listener by just reading this newspaper. Like the English that you have already learned, the English that is already lying here in your mind, like the phrases, vocabulary, expression, etc., etc. They might be boring, old-fashioned, and sound boring anymore, and maybe not good enough to attract and inspire the other people. And if you try to speak the English language in front of someone, if you try to speak the old-fashioned and expired expression, vocabulary, etc. in front of someone, so they may get bored. But newspaper is always full of the sophisticated words, expressions, phrases, and everything that you need for a mind-blowing, a totally mind-blowing, awesome and inspiring conversation. In newspaper, you'll always find the new and sophisticated words, expressions and everything that is used by native English speakers, that native speakers use all the time. And in newspaper, you'll always find the new English, the sophisticated English, the English that is used in day-to-day life in this 21st century. So if you start reading a newspaper, so yeah, you will improve your vocabulary, boost your vocabulary, you will improve your general knowledge, your speaking proficiency, you will become a fluent English speaker, but you will also improve your listening comprehension. After some time, you will be able to understand English movies. You will be able to understand the fast native English speakers because you will learn the modern English. So here, I repeat guys, reading newspaper, reading a single newspaper and a cheaper newspaper has so many and several benefits. And if you are an English learner, if you really want to achieve your goal of becoming a fluent English speaker and speak the English language fast, fluent and clear, just like a native speaker, if you really want to take your English to the next level, if you really want to take your English to even more advanced level, then you cannot ignore reading newspaper. You must have to read a newspaper on a consistent basis every single day, whether you feel like or not, but you have to read a newspaper by all means. And on the flip side, reading is a really good habit. If you want to have a really healthy brain, so you have to read everything. You have to read everything that you like. But to improve your English language, you have to read a newspaper every single day. And the more you read, the more you will have a really healthy brain. Because reading is a kind of exercise for your brain. So if you really want to boost your vocabulary and update your vocabulary, then you have to read a newspaper. The more you read, the more you will have a wide vocabulary. And if you are looking for a way to improve your GK, your general knowledge somehow, and feel more confident, then you should read a newspaper. Because in newspaper, you will get to know and you will learn a lot of different things about your country. You will get to know that what is happening in your country and what is happening around the world. If you want to become a fluent English speaker and improve your listening comprehension as well, then you have to read a newspaper and talk about that news in your own words on a consistent basis, and at the most, you will become a fluent English speaker. You will achieve your goal of becoming a very fluent English speaker within 3 months. Even more guys, as you have just learned, that you can easily attract and inspire your listener. You can update your vocabulary, expressions, phrases and everything, your English, by just reading a newspaper. And in addition guys, if you really admire to speak the English language as natural as native English speaker, rather than a boring robotic sound, then you can easily, effortlessly do so by reading newspaper. So guys, what are you waiting for? Buy a newspaper right now. If you don't have money, I will give you these newspaper, but you have to read newspaper somehow. You have to start improving your English language by reading newspaper, and I promise you can easily do so by reading newspaper. And on the flip side, newspaper is not that hard to find. Newspaper is not that expensive to buy. You can easily access, you can easily find newspaper everywhere and all the time. So I highly recommend all of you guys, if you really want to take your English to the next level, then you have to read a newspaper every single day. And that's all you need. Yeah, just reading a single newspaper is good enough to achieve your goal of becoming a fluent speaker. You don't need to spend your precious time and money at any English institute. Start reading by newspaper, and after 3 months, not after 3 months, after 1 month, come back to this video again and leave your comment. How are you feeling with your English language? Finger crossed. And now finally, here I'd like to drop my weapon, and I really hope you enjoy this lesson and you find this lesson constructive and you have learned something new from this lesson. And right now I'm feeling quite knackered, so I'm gonna sleep. But before I leave guys, I'd like to let you know that if you really want to achieve your goal of becoming a fluent English speaker, and if you really admire to speak the English language fast, fluent and clear, just like a native speaker, without hesitation, without translation in your mind, and even without cramming, then I highly recommend you to join the englsih.com right now. Because here on this channel on the englsih.com, every single day early in the morning, We upload a kind of concise, relevant and short lessons just like this one that can help you a lot to update your vocabulary, improve your vocabulary, and even more, that can help you a lot to improve your listening comprehension and your speaking proficiency a lot. Like you can learn a lot of different and sophisticated expressions, phrases, phrasal verbs, vocabulary, and everything that you need for a mind-blowing conversation and that you need for a totally inspiring conversation. You can and should get everything effortlessly that you need to improve your English language and to take your English to the next level. So, what are you waiting for? Move ahead, subscribe our YouTube channel right now. Support yourself there and support us here because I'm completely new here in this field. So please, I really need your support. Please support me right now by subscribing my YouTube channel and also giving us a big thumbs up.